Welcome to the Running Educator podcast. My name is Mike Cummings, your host, and happy Monday to you all. During this episode 33, Educationally Sobering, my guest Drew Carter and I talk a lot about his story as a middle school counselor. One of the main topics that we'll be talking a lot about is sobriety in the workforce, his challenging career changes and professions. He shares a little bit about the sources of strength, which is in the show notes if you need to have access to that. And one of the biggest things that Drew and I have a good relationship with is the positive mental attitude. Lastly, Drew and I talk about his daily affirmations as he is commuting to work. He spends that time for praying for others and forgiveness, which goes along with the purpose of this podcast, is giving back. I hope that you take away the rebooting and reinventing of yourself through the practices that Drew has done in his life and throughout his career. I hope you enjoy this episode, and this is the Running Educator podcast. Because I don't really have any of the questions. I'm just kind of here to listen to the story, and I love the story, and I feel that this story can help other teachers, educators, counselors, coaches, the whole gambit of education, really. But then outside, anybody that's working in firefighting or law enforcement or, government or even our healthcare agencies. I mean, this really kind of hits the nail for everybody, if you ask me. So that's what I really enjoyed listening to, the first kind of walkthrough of it. And so definitely would love to just start from there. So
Sure. Someone that has not had a lot of recent struggles with sobriety, but just over the 27 years that I've been sober, I just work life and socialization and work life and being sober and not drinking and not really being around it that often has definitely comes up, and it can be awkward for other people. It's definitely not awkward for me because I feel comfortable in my own skin, but there's definitely people that will make sarcastic comments or, crack a joke to lighten the lighten the mood or whatever. And they'll say, oh, better not drink in front of him, or, oh, wow, we sure talk about drinking a lot, and people have different reactions, and I'm totally comfortable in my own skin. It's not a temptation for me. And so it does. There's just a lot of socialization with people you work with outside of work, with drinking, and it can be a temptation for a lot of people. That's for sure.
As you're describing kind of the awkwardness or the left outness of your fellow educators, friends and family, kind of giving you the butt of all jokes because of, your sobriety. Describe the day of your, taking it all the way back, the day that you became sober and what it meant to you. And then kind of, again, fast forward to where you are today.
Well, yeah, we really have to hit the rewind button. This goes all the way back to 1993. I was in a treatment program, and I was in denial, didn't think I had a problem. And then I got caught by my treatment program. And so that they said, well, we're going to send you back to court if you don't follow the program. And that was my wake up call. And so that's when I was at rock bottom. And so I just turned to my faith and started going back to church. And through those couple of months, I realized, like, okay, I have a story to tell. And so I started working with young people at a church camp, and it all culminated with a chance to give my testimony in front of about 500 people. And that was really powerful. And, just talked about how I was powerless over alcohol. And that was a really defining moment. And then after the summer ended and you come off that camp high of being in that bubble and around all these great people and all that support, I had a relapse, and a friend of mine came home from the Coast Guard, and we went out, and it just happened that I ran across a couple of high schoolers that had seen me give my testimony, and that next week they told the youth pastor I was working with, and that was my sobering moment, because at that point in my life, the only thing I had was a story, like a turnaround story. I didn't have any education. I was 23, and and just started working at a gas station and was just at rock bottom and just trying to rebuild my life. And the one thing that I had, and I felt like that was my calling, was to have this story of how I turned my life around. And um, that to me was the defining moment, because that's all I had at that point was a story, and it ruined my credibility with kids. And it took, the first year was really hard. I spent a lot of time at home. I lived at home at 23 and rented a lot of movies, played a lot of video games, and then got involved in my church. And the more I got involved in my church and youth ministry, that became my social network. And you have to remember, this was way before the internet. I mean, this was before reach out to people and socialize via social media. And the things I was involved with was my network. So I started working with young people, started working at a church camp. I was really got into coaching. And so that became the beginning of my life's work of working with kids and being around kids and being a testimony and showing kids you can have a great time without drugs and alcohol. And so that's when I started my life's work 27 years ago. And fast forward to now, my career as an educator has definitely been a bumpy one. It's been really hard to find the right spot for me, to find my niche, to find the right community. And through all of that, I've faced lots of challenges. And that's really what I wanted to talk about, is how to work through those challenges, whether that's conflict, whether that's struggles with drug and alcohol, whether that's dysfunction, whether any sort of addiction or struggles. And the thing I shared with you is there's a program called Sources of Strength. And what I love about that is that it's a wheel, and the spokes of the wheel really focus on lots of things, but it's family support, positive friends, mentors, generosity, healthy activities, and mental and physical health. And for me, the sources of strength, the things that allow me to get through all of these challenges in my life, are positive experiences that I've had working with kids or mentors or friends. And I think anytime we're challenged with going through something hard, we have to look at the positive. What did we use to get through those times, and rely on those times? And over the last year with the pandemic and all of that, I wasn't sure I was going to be in education anymore, and it really challenged my faith. And lo and behold, in August, I got there wasn't a lot of jobs out there, but I got this great opportunity and had a great interview and was able to land a full-time job as a middle school counselor in Albany. And this has been my 14 years of education, by far the best fit for me. It's supportive colleagues, and it's middle school is definitely different than high school. It's not as high stakes, and sense of humor goes a long way. My dad jokes play really well in middle school, and so it's but having the challenges that I've had the last few years, one of the things that has helped me is that generosity, is being able to give back and connect with others who are struggling with addiction. I have personal friends that, I was their youth leader or coach back in the 90s, and now they're grown adults, and they're going through crisis. And I'm someone that reaches out to them and shares with them a positive message, an encouraging word, and giving back to them also gives to me. And so I'm sure you have similar experiences of just being able to be the person that is there when people are struggling, and just to be an encouragement and a support, and to reach out and say, I understand, I'm here for you. And, I think when we go through tough things, we find out who our friends are. And just tried to strive the last couple of years, even though I was, in some tough spots, just trying to reach out and give back. The neat thing is all of the things that I was so involved with years ago, I've actually been asked to come back and help and get involved in some camps again and mentor some people. And things have come full circle, and it feels really good to be able to share my positive experiences and share the things that have helped me get through those tough times, and finding that inner strength, right? What makes us strong, and focus on the positive. And I think this is a great time to bring up that PMA, positive mental attitude. And I think that is so powerful, and surrounding yourself with positive people that are uplifting and supportive and hold you accountable. I think that's all a part of, our calling in working with people, whether that's in treatment or in education or just even in the workforce, is being that person. I have a phrase I use working with kids. It's unconditional positive regard. I feel like I'm the person that's going to be there, encouraging them that they can do it and supporting them along the way. And I don't know, I just feel like my life's work has been a calling, and it all goes back to that moment of when these kids who heard me give my testimony saw me drunk, and I just ruined whatever testimony and credibility I had. And so I think for me, things have come full circle. And so it's an honor and privilege, Mike, to have gotten to know you the last couple of weeks and share our stories and talk about our struggles, and that our lives mirror each other in a lot of ways. And so kindred spirits, if you will. It's really fun to be able to connect and be able to talk with people who understand it and get it and kind of have that same viewpoint of giving back.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I referenced you as from The Peaceful Warrior, the book by Dan Millman, that you are my modern day Socrates. And, it's just right when you said you're working in a gas station, I was like, this is my Socrates. And so you're my spiritual guidance of that. And so I want to go back to the first time that you used the sources of strength, and where were you when it hit you or when you used it? And then how did it evolve into like the PMA?
So Sources of Strength is a training I went to, and it just all galvanized. It all made sense. I have always used like the positive experiences. Like I spent a decade working in youth ministry. I had two unbelievable mentors, the youth pastor, Rudy Herr of First Baptist Church in Eugene, and then legendary football coach Marty Johnson, who was the head coach at Sheldon. And both of those guys took me under their wing and mentored me, and just unbelievable people to be around. And in my work through those years, just that's where I learned to build relationships and connections with people by spending time with them and doing events with them, whether that's youth ministry or coaching, and just all of those experiences and those relationships that I had with kids. We went on Mexico mission trips, or taking kids to summer camp, or coaching football. I was really so fortunate and blessed to work with Marty Johnson and be a part of a state championship staff, and just that opportunity for me to work with a guy like that. And I met him when I was working at the gas station, and just attached myself to him, and just working with him and getting an opportunity to coach with him allowed me to go to a different school, get my first job in education as a campus supervisor. And that inspired me to go back to school. And just, I didn't get my degree until I was, it was actually the same week we won the state championship. I earned my degree and then started grad school. And without those two guys, I would have never been able to accomplish the things in my life. It all starts with my sobriety, but then to be mentored by them. So I always use those positive experiences to get me through the tough times. And, I think I've worn out a few videotapes of some special games, watching watching those. And so I've used all those, but in 2018, I went to a conference sponsored by my school district, and it was this program called Sources of Strength, and it just talked about the wheel and family support and positive friends and mentor, and it just all clicked for me. And so I had been teaching this class at Crescent Valley, an intervention class for struggling students, and we would use the wheel and talk about how to use our sources of strength. And the student I was working with came up with this phrase, PMA, positive mental attitude, and just he talked about that. And that, when it comes from a student, I'm always most inspired by students when they come up with things or have some real insight. And we made posters and we put it up, and we always talked about having PMA, positive mental attitude, and always looking for the positive things. And so I think for me, having experienced all of that and then have it all come together in a program like Sources of Strength, and then in a phrase like positive mental attitude, I just been a coach for a long time, and always being positive is something that you preach, but here's a phrase that defines it all. And it just was galvanizing moment with a student, and that coming from a student, it had more of an impact on the other students. And I just got to sit back and watch it work, and it was pretty amazing and pretty neat to feel like you can be a conduit for some of these kind of happenstances, and that you can use your story or your ability to relate, and then just as working with kids just, they want to feel accepted and understood and have somebody believe in them. And I know for me, when I turned my life around, I had two of the best take a chance on me. And so I feel like that's my calling. I feel like I need to give back to the kids I work with. And today was a great day for me at school because we started limited in person. And so I had 9 kids in class, and it was awesome. And it was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where my path has taken me. And I think I've shared this with you. One of the things about that PMA, Sources of Strength, it's all about being in the present, the right now. Don't let your past define you, but be in the moment and enjoy where you're at and look forward. You can use past experiences to inspire you and to motivate you and to conjure up that grit and determination to get through stuff, but don't let your negative past or your fails or don't let those things define you, but just try and be in the moment and have that positive mental attitude. And it's so funny to just sitting here talking with you. I can see you light up on the screen, and every time I say it, because it just hits home with you, and it's pretty powerful. And how often are you able to use that with the kids that you work with?
Every day. Those 3 powerful words, it's very assertive. Like you said, there's no like in between, like you should maybe do this, like positive mental attitude. Like that's what we're looking for. That's what we need right now. You got to get rid of all the other crap that's in the way. It just defines where you are at as you're talking about being present. And so, going back to the failure part, I mean, your best teacher is your last mistake. And so if we can get that in with, that's the thing, again, the umbrella of the PMA effect, it leaves so many things of where you're at. And it applies to all forms of education, philosophy, religion, whatever. It's straight across, like it's going to help that person get the idea of what it goes. But every day PMA is in my lesson plans, in my curriculum, in my speech, in my body. I'm fortunate to every day we have kids in the clinic, so we're small enough to where we can have small side classes, but to have the open Socratic, conversations about, hey, what's this mean to you? Break it down. And hey, is that, are you spreading PMA? Now I'm talking about, hey, are you thinking before you say, and are you spreading good? So I mean that right there is a spiritual part of it. So it's pretty cool to see how just those three words, PMA, positive mental attitude, can really just affect not just one person, but it kind of just spreads like wildfire. And like you were talking about, how you just open it up and just let the kids handle it, and then all of a sudden it just starts, the conduit. I love that reference, the analogy of that, to where it just generates and the electric positivity that everybody needs in their life. Because you're right, sometimes when we are at school, this kid might have nothing at home, and we're their only positive, light in their day. Even if we're in the seventh period or whatever, like that kid's looking to get to us. And so that's the beauty of education, is that spiritual calling to helping others and service to others. But the sources of strength, to PMA, to your daily affirmations, what can you talk to me a little bit about that, of what your practice is on that?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think for me, when this summer, when I was able to land this job, it changed everything for my family. It just put us in such a great position. And this was a practice I followed years ago. I worked at a church summer camp and was the lifeguard, and would get up early and spend my mornings hosing down the deck, sipping my coffee as the sun came up, and would read my Bible. And like those moments early in my sobriety, the first 3 or 4 years were just foundational for me, and just alone time with God. And so it's about a 45 minute drive to work. And as soon as I started working and driving, I just started praying. And
If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's the easiest way to make a podcast, all in one place. Download for free the Anchor app, or go to anchor.fm to get started. That is ANCHOR.FM. Enjoy.
by the end of the first week, my list of things almost takes up my whole drive. And I have certain markers on my drive, like if I'm not this far along in my prayer, I need to hurry it up. And, there's certain places that, on this turn, I should be at least on this part of I have different groups. I pray for myself every day, just an attitude of gratitude. I pray for insight and discernment. I pray for, lots of different things. Just be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, to be a light in my job, to be a team player, to serve people's needs. And just, I pray for that. I pray for protection from attacks. One thing that's been life-changing, I pray for my enemies, and I pray for healing from the past, because I think for me and all my struggles, I think my competitive nature is just never liked the feeling that someone got the best of me. And so that was always a motivating factor, and it was a negative way to be motivated. And so I think I've changed that practice, and just praying for forgiveness and grace, that because I've received so much, and to pray for that. I pray for my colleagues. I pray for my family, my marriage, my relationship, each of my children. I pray for health and well-being for my folks, my in-laws. I just pray to be a good steward with my time and talents and abilities, and to give back and to donate. I've been pretty fortunate to be able to go back to the places I served as a youth leader and give money for scholarships for kids. And then I pray for a list of friends who have struggles. And I also pray for broken relationships from the past and healing from that, and that I can give that kind of forgiveness. I pray for certain friends who have health issues going on right now. I pray for certain friends who are pregnant for the first time, and they've tried to get pregnant for years, and so just that they stay healthy. I pray for people I'm mentoring, whether that's just friends who I used to be their youth leader and they're going through a tough time, or I pray for just different colleagues. And so in that 45 minute drive gets eaten up by prayer, but it's out loud. I don't have any music on, and I just talk to God, and it is so powerful, and it just focuses my day. And I, as a counselor, my number one piece of advice is to tell people to journal, right? Like that is people. I have a few kids that I've worked with. They're now in college, but they laugh and they still journal, but they know that that's my go-to. Have you journaled? But for someone that's not a great writer, this outward talk and this prayer list and asking for things and praying for other people and praying for the right attitude, and it just centers me every day. And I like today I came away with, it was the first day of school for kids, and it's February, and kids were showing up, and I was meeting parents, and they didn't know what to think. And it was just a really neat day. And it was like, because I prayed for it today, I prayed for this conversation, that I say the right thing that can reach out to someone and encourage someone. And I think the attitude of gratitude is giving back, reaching out to my friends that are hurting, or meeting with people regularly. To be honest, my connection with you that we've made the last couple of weeks has been inspiring. I mean, you're now on my list. It's been really neat to meet someone who you feel really gets you. This happens to me a lot, where I can meet someone and build a connection with, and I feel like I've known them for years. I feel like, even though I don't know all the details of your story, my story is similar enough. And just, I don't know, I just think that giving back to other people when you've received so much grace is just, that's part of that positive mental attitude, is you're just giving back and praying for others, thinking of others first, finding ways that you can encourage people. I have a list of people I send text messages to a couple times a week, ask them how they're doing. May send like a funny one-liner with it, but like, get her done, or, certain friends that I can make them laugh and smile, and just encouraging them. Some of the former kids I've coached, I tell them to channel their inner number, 7, or their inner number 77, whatever number they were, to look back on those days that, brought them lots of success, and find that inner drive. And so I think that's the big key, is giving back to other people and investing in other people's lives. I think that is, for me, in the last 6 months, that's probably been the most healing, being able to pray for my enemies, pray for, to serve the ones that I despise. And that's an old Jars of Clay song. And that Jars of Clay was listened to over and over all the years I lifeguarded. So it still brings back great memories. But I think that, for me, has given me such peace. I sleep like a baby. Like, I wake up, not a care in the world. I know that I'm doing my life's work. I'm giving back. And that daily prayer, that daily connection. I'm fortunate I have 40-some minutes on my drive. But I'd encourage somebody, start with 5 minutes in the shower and just talk out loud and positive self-talk, and reach out to others and give back. And, you're going to get that return on that investment at some point, and that's going to fill your tank.
I would wholeheartedly agree. I took your advice and did my run. As I told you, I had a friend passed away, and I did an 8 mile run on Wednesday. And during that whole 8 miles, I was just kicking out as much positive prayers as I could. Please, give help to the families and their children, and it just went down. And I just it wasn't even like planned, but I just started, please, I pray for, and then all of a sudden I just started kicking out names, and please let, these people that are dealing with health issues or financial issues, and I think the biggest thing that I've noted from you and your humility, you are such a humble servant, and your soul is so soft, and I took away the forgiveness. That's one of the things I was holding on to. And you mentioned sleeping like a baby. Well, I forgave people that I thought that did me dirty, or did me wrong, and how can they do that to me? And I just said, you know what, it is what it is. God, I forgive, such and such, and I just, like, it was a cleansing. It was just like everything from my stomach to my chest was just like rock of crap just gone, and it was just amazing. And I, like I said, I don't necessarily run 8 miles on a Wednesday afternoon, but I felt great, and I felt amazing, and I just felt so light and free and happy. And like you said, I went home that night probably because I didn't run 8 miles, but
Right.
and ever since, I've just been sleeping more. And so I've been taking your advice, in the car, just, saying prayers to my dad, my stepmom, and, my family, my wife, my kids, and just, like I said, and it just, the laundry list goes on, and it just, what do you got to lose? You don't have anything to lose. And like you said, that investment will always come back, and tenfolds. And I see it daily, just because how I'm dealing with my difficult kids at my clinic. Gives me that patience, gives me that confidence, gives me that PMA, and I do pray for those at my clinic, and I pray for every kid that's going through everything right now, and so, but right now that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm investing in, and I appreciate and thank you wholeheartedly, for all the advice and guidance, and just, the spirituality and the PMA that goes along with it. If it's just one thing, reflect on your flaws or your mistakes and learn from them and grow from them, and then pay it forward, to others. And I think that's a strong message here, that, and I feel the same way, like spiritually, I have been awoken spiritually probably this last 2 years. I've always been spiritually, like, in some essence, but never really awoken to where I just have tuned in. And like you said, you're one person that definitely come across my tablet, if you will, of just like, this is a person I need in my life. This is a person I want to see and seek, and do more with, and connect, and however I can help him, or vice versa. And so that's the thing I'm taking away from this podcast, particularly is that relationship that you and I have created, and just what are the possibilities now. And that's just where I seek stillness in my day with prayer and meditation. And that's the question that comes up to it. And I always have a pretty positive light on that. So I appreciate you graciously. So,
Well, the feeling is mutual. And, I think when we serve others, like, we're called to practice what we preach. And this has been a reboot for me. Like, I have not been this close with God since my youth ministry days. I mean, education has been really difficult, and just a tough path. And I realized that part of that is because my eyes weren't on God, and I wasn't as transparent. And, you talk about that feeling of freedom from just that one day of prayer. Like, I've held on to this for a long time. When I first started working with kids, someone called me a diamond in the rough, right? A lot of rough edges, a lot of shortcomings, a lot of immaturity. But over time, as we know, diamonds over time, right? They need that pressure and that to refine those edges. And for me, doing this prayer and forgiving and owning what I needed to own, it's taken this heavy burden that I've carried for years because I tried to do it on my own. I tried to do it by myself. I always felt like, as a coach, I can will my team to win, or I can make the sunshine from pure desire. It's like the, but I can't. And to land the job that I landed in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of a fire season, in the middle of, it was a God thing. I mean, the window for me, and what was so powerful is I had a conversation with my principal. It's the day before Thanksgiving. I had 2 kids that were there for limited in person, both really tough home lives. They opened up and said they don't have a positive male figure in their life, and they're not, that. And so it was a really deep conversation. It's like me, these 2 kids in the building, one custodian, and the principal, right? And so we go outside. It's freezing cold. I have my jacket. Each kid has a ball. We're practicing social distancing. And this kid goes, "Here, Mr. Carter, shoot." And I've not shot a basketball in 10 years, Mike. I mean, I used to play all the time. I used to be a gym rat, all of that. And I was way out by the 3-point line, and I turned and I shot it, nothing but net. And the kids just went nuts. And to me, it was that being there on that day, I was there for those kids to be in that moment, and that hitting, yes, it was just for fun, but just to step up and hit a shot when it's unexpected and come through and deliver, like it was one of those moments that I'm never going to forget in education. And then afterwards, I was talking with my principal who hired me, and I hadn't really had a deep conversation with her, but her husband, found out her husband's a pastor, and the team that I work on is all believers, and it's just been a great fit. And she shared with me that every person she hires, she prays for. And she said there was just something about me that just hit her in the heart, and that just spoke to her. And I just started bawling, just because what this job like rebooted me and just gave me a chance to salvage my career, be in a great fit, do things for my family that didn't think were possible, have an impact on kids. It just was this moment. And so all of my prayers and my asking for forgiveness and praying for my weaknesses and all of those, I credit just the success since August to that time of prayer and that time of connection. And to sit here and talk with a guy that I just met and feel like you're a lifelong friend. And I mean, you are so kind in your words, but the feeling is mutual. Like I heard your story and your path, and it's like, here's somebody who gets it and understands that, I had a principal turn me down this summer, and that one of the interview questions was, explain a time when you failed forward. And I thought that was really profound. And I said, in my career, when I've been at a school, it hasn't gone well, and I was able to go on and move on to the next school and failing forward. And I think hopefully the audience will hear some of these things and adopt some of these practices. And, I'd encourage people to reach out, find positive mentors, positive friends, give back to others, and pray. I mean, it sounds simple, but once you get in practice, I mean, we know the 21-day challenge. You do something for 21 days, it becomes a habit, and start small, start with praying in the shower every day, and then pick 3 friends to reach out to. And so I know, Mike, for me, talking with you and connecting with you has just been an inspiration to me. And I just have really enjoyed, how I found you was such a happenstance, and it's been amazing. And the work that you're doing and being able to share, I think here in the last 6 months to a year, reaching out to friends, I've always had a heart for helping kids who struggle, but now I'm at the point where I'm helping adults, like reaching out to friends and trying to mentor some people. And, it fills my bucket when I'm able to connect with my old mentors. And this last week, I got a chance to see the Coach Johnson, and that was so uplifting. And he just had the best words for me. And then a couple months back, I was able to meet and connect with my old youth pastor that I worked with. And it's just like, those are things I know we don't drink, but those are the things that I wish we could bottle up and store, that, that those times. And that's that sources of strength, surround yourself with good people, with positive people, and more out of just helping people and being able to share. And it's opened up a new door of opportunity for me to, give back to others. I've always had a calling for kids, but now to connect with other adults and support each other, in the game of life, because we know the game of life is not fair and it's tough. And having a PMA, right, positive mental attitude, and being around the right people and finding your sources of strength and leaning on those. I just appreciate the opportunity to share. This has been something I've been praying about, and I just hope that someone finds some little nugget of inspiration or hope or encouragement. And I think you have a real ministry here with this podcast. I think I told you this. My wife laughed at me and said, "Do you even know what a podcast is?" And no, it's awesome. I think you're doing great work, and it's just been an honor and a privilege to share with you.